Hello viewers, welcome to my YouTube channel. Get ready for heart-touching stories. Don't forget to subscribe and let's begin.
The for sale sign had been down for 3 days before Marcus found out. I was standing at the kitchen sink, my old kitchen sink, the one with the small chip near the faucet that I'd been meaning to fix for 11 years when I heard his truck screech into the driveway. I knew that sound. I'd known it since he was 17 and first got his license, the way he always braked a half second too late, confident the world would wait for him. Some things don't change. The back door flew open before I could even dry my hands. Tell me it isn't true, Marcus said. He was still in his work clothes, muddy boots, orange safety vest, hard hat tucked under his arm like a football. 34 years old, and he looked exactly like his father standing in that doorway. That nearly broke me. Who told you? I asked, which was, I'll admit, the wrong thing to say. Who told me? He let out a short, disbelieving laugh. Danny Kowalski from the hardware store. Danny Kowalski told me my mother sold the house I grew up in. He saw the sold sticker on the sign driving past. My mother didn't bother to mention it. Set the dish towel down on the counter, slowly, deliberately, the way you do when you're trying to keep your hands from shaking. Sit down, Marcus. I don't want to sit down. I want to know why you sold this house without saying a single word to me, without asking me. Mom, I would have helped you. I've been telling you for years, move in with us. We have the spare room. You don't need to sell. You don't need to go anywhere, Marcus. My voice came out quieter than I intended, but it stopped him. Sit down, please. He sat, heavily, the way men do when they're trying to hold the weight of their anger in their bodies. He put the hard hat on the table and stared at it. I pulled out the chair across from him, the same chair I'd sat in for 31 years, every morning, every holiday meal, every late-night cup of tea after your husband has gone to bed and the house is finally, beautifully quiet. I sat down and folded my hands. Your father and I bought this house in April of 1987, I began. Mom, I know, let me finish. He closed his mouth. We paid $82,000 for it. Everyone thought we were crazy. Your Aunt Patris said the neighborhood was too rough, that we'd regret it. Your grandfather on your father's side didn't speak to us for 2 months because we didn't buy closer to his side of town. I smiled at the memory. We didn't care, we painted the living room ourselves, bright yellow, remember? You hated it when you were a teenager. I remember the yellow, he said, softer now. Your father carried me over the threshold as a joke because we'd been married 8 years by then and he said we never did it properly the first time. I paused. This house has been the great love of my practical life, Marcus. You need to understand that before you understand anything else I'm about to tell you. He looked up at me then. Some of the fury was still there, but underneath it, something else was opening up, the look he used to get as a little boy when he sensed that a conversation was bigger than he'd first thought. I have been in this house alone for 4 years, I continued. Since your father passed, 4 years of talking to rooms, 4 years of cooking for one and hearing every creak in the ceiling at 2 in the morning. 4 years of maintaining a four-bedroom house on a fixed income and a stubbornness I inherited from a long line of women who didn't know when to ask for help. I let that land. I should have told you sooner, not about the sale, about how I was feeling. That part is on me. Marcus rubbed his jaw. Mom, I didn't sell this house because I was desperate or confused or because some slick realtor talked me into it. I sold it because I had a plan. And I didn't tell you about the plan because I knew you'd try to talk me out of it before I could show you what it was. He frowned. What plan? I reached behind me to the counter where I'd left the folder. A plain manila folder, the kind you buy in bulk at the office supply store. I slid it across the table to him. He opened it slowly, the way you open something when you're not sure if you want to see what's inside. The first page was a letter. He read it in silence. I watched his eyes move across the lines, watched his brow furrow, watched the moment, I could see the exact moment, when his expression changed completely. He looked up at me. He looked back down at the paper. This is a deed. This is a deed for the property on Clover Mill Road. Your grandfather's land, I said. 42 acres, sitting empty for 19 years since he passed, and your Uncle Roy couldn't agree with anyone about what to do with it. Roy needed money last fall. I'd been watching and waiting. I made him an offer the week before Thanksgiving. Marcus set the paper down carefully. You bought Grandpa's land. With the money from this house and a portion of what your father left in savings, yes. I bought every acre of it. I paused. Keep reading. He turned to the second page, architectural drawings. Simple ones, I'd had them done by a young woman in town who charged reasonable rates and didn't make me feel foolish for my ideas. Marcus spread the page open with both hands, flattening it against the table. These are houses, he said, 4 of them. Small ones, what they call cottages now, though in my day we just called them sensible. I leaned forward. One for me. One that I've already spoken to your sister about. Diane has been paying rent in that apartment for 9 years, Marcus, 9 years, and she's never going to be able to afford a down payment on her salary. One that I've set aside in trust for your cousin Bethany's family, because after what happened with her husband's accident, they need a soft place to land. I stopped. And one for you. Kitchen went very quiet. Outside, a cardinal landed on the old feeder I'd hung from the oak tree 15 years ago. I noticed it the way you notice small beautiful things when you're waiting for someone you love to find words. Me, Marcus repeated. You and Sarah and the boys. 3 bedrooms, your own land. A yard that backs up to the woods your grandfather used to take you hunting in. Do you remember that? You were 6 years old and you refused to shoot anything but you loved walking through those woods with him. His jaw tightened. I remember. I had the drawings done to face east so the kitchen gets morning light. Sarah mentioned once at Easter 2 years ago, you probably don't remember but I do, she mentioned that she always wanted a kitchen with morning light. I wrote it down when I got home. Marcus stared at me. His eyes had gone red at the corners the way they do when he's trying very hard not to cry, a habit he's had since childhood, this refusal to let tears actually fall. His father was the same way. You wrote it down, he said. I have a small notebook. I've been writing things down for years. Things my children mention wanting, things they mention needing. I always thought someday if I find a way. I smoothed the folder with my palm. Your father and I worked hard for 37 years in this house. We didn't take big vacations. We didn't buy new cars when the old ones still ran. We didn't redo the kitchen even when the cabinets were embarrassing. I glanced at the cabinets, which were still quite embarrassing. We saved. Not because we were afraid of spending, but because we believed that the most important thing money could ever do was change the starting line for the people we loved. Marcus picked up the architectural drawing again. He held it differently this time, gently, the way you hold something you've just realized is precious. Mom, he said, and his voice was rough. You should have told me. I know, I'm sorry for the scare. I thought I didn't know what to think. Danny Kowalski said the sign said sold and he stopped, started again. I thought you were going to tell me you were moving into some retirement facility somewhere. I thought you'd done it all quietly because you didn't want me to make a fuss. I thought I'd failed you somehow. You have never failed me, I said. Not once in 34 years. He put the drawing down and pressed the heels of his hands briefly against his eyes. When he lowered them, the redness was still there, but his face had settled into something calmer. Where are you going to live? While the cottages are being built, Mrs. Petrovsky has a garage apartment she rents. It's small, but it's only for 8 or 9 months. I've already arranged it. You've already, he almost laughed. Of course you have. I didn't want to come to you half finished, I said. I wanted to come to you with something real, something I could put on the table and say, here. This is what I've been building. This is what all those years meant. He was quiet for a long moment. The cardinal was gone. The afternoon light had shifted to that particular gold that only happens in late autumn, the kind that makes even old kitchens look like something out of a painting. Have you told Deanne yet? He finally asked. I'm going there tomorrow. She's going to cry. Expect so. I'm not crying, he said definitively in a voice that was doing quite a lot of work to remain steady. Of course not, I agreed. He pulled the folder toward him and went through the rest of the pages slowly, the survey maps, the builder's estimates, the legal documents Roy and I had signed in the office of a notary named Gerald who'd given me a butterscotch candy from a dish on his desk, and said my plan was the finest thing he'd seen in 20 years of watching families argue over property. This builder, Marcus said, pointing to one of the estimate sheets. Coletti brothers, Tony Coletti's sons. You went to school with the younger one, Mitch Coletti. He's good, he does solid work. He nodded slowly, the approving nod of a man who works in construction and takes the craft seriously. He's going to do right by you. That's what I thought. He kept reading. I got up and put the kettle on because that's what you do. You put the kettle on and you let people take the time they need. The east-facing kitchen, Marcus said from behind me. How did you know what size to make it? I didn't. I described Sarah to the architect, what she cooks, how she moves when she cooks, that she always seems crowded in your kitchen now, and the architect figured it out. You described how Sarah moves when she cooks. She's a wonderful cook, I said simply. She deserves a kitchen that fits her. He didn't say anything for a while after that. I made the tea and brought it to the table, and we sat the way we used to sit on long afternoons when he was a boy and didn't have anywhere to be, not quite talking, not quite silent, just existing together in the comfortable way that is only possible between people who have known each other through all weathers. I was so angry, he said eventually. I know. I was rehearsing things to say in the truck on the way over. I had whole speeches. What were they? He smiled for the first time since he'd arrived. Mostly just the word why, repeated very loudly in different emotional registers. I laughed, really laughed, the kind that starts in your chest. I'm sorry I didn't give you the chance to say them properly, I said. Not sorry at all, I admitted. Not even a little. He turned his mug in slow circles on the table, a habit from boyhood. When do you think it'll be done, the building? Mitch Coletti says 9 to 11 months if we don't hit too many delays. Your place would go up first, I made sure of that. He looked up. Why mine first? I looked at my son, this man who'd spent the last 4 years mowing my lawn and changing my light bulbs and asking, gently, repeatedly, if I was really okay, always ready to carry whatever weight I'd let him carry, and I thought of all the ways a mother stores her love in practical things. In saved money and surveyed land and east-facing walls. Notepads filled with the small wishes her children mention once and then forget they ever said. Because I said, you've been carrying a lot for a long time, I wanted you to have somewhere to set it down. He looked at his mug. The kettle ticked as it cooled. Mom reached across the table and put his big calloused hand over mine. The same hand that used to grip my fingers in parking lots when he was small, afraid of crowds and moving cars and the overwhelming bigness of the world. Thank you, he said. Thank your father, I told him. He worked just as hard as I did. Mention it to him, Marcus said quietly. We both looked out the window at the oak tree where the feeder hung bare of birds now, swaying faintly in the November wind. I'd planted that tree the year Marcus was born. It was just a sapling then. Now it was enormous, older looking than the house, like it had always been there and always would be. Going to have to tell Sarah, I said after a while. She's going to want to call you immediately. That's fine. She's going to want to come over tonight. That's also fine. She might cry more than Diane. There'll be enough tea for everyone. He squeezed my hand once, let it go, and picked up his mug. Outside, the light was going golden to gray the way it does in November when the day decides to be done with itself. I would leave this kitchen, I knew it, had made my peace with it on 100 sleepless nights over the past year. I would leave the chipped faucet and the embarrassing cabinets and the oak tree outside the window that knew all our seasons, but I would build something new. Not instead, never instead, just beyond. The way love always builds, not by replacing what was, but by adding another room. My son sat across from me in the gathering dusk. The manila folder opened between us like a small paper map to the future. And just like that, it felt like enough. It felt like everything. The cottages on Clover Mill Road were completed the following October. And Sarah moved into theirs on a Saturday morning with 2 boys underfoot and a borrowed truck and not enough boxes. Stood in her own doorway that afternoon and didn't say a single word for nearly a full minute. She just looked out at the land and breath. I planted a tree in front of each cottage, saplings for now, but they'll grow.